The sunrise over New Geneva looked different somehow. The light seemed more precious, the colors more vivid. Perhaps it was just that Earth had come so close to losing its sunrises forever. Admiral Gary Mason watched from the observation deck of the newly completed Memorial Tower. Below him stretched the diplomatic quarter where representatives from 17 alien civilizations now maintained embassies. 6 months after the battle, humanity's place in the galaxy had transformed completely. "Beautiful morning," said Laura Wilson, stepping up beside him. As Earth's chief diplomat, she had been working tirelessly since the Concord retreat. "The final treaty is signed?" Mason asked. Wilson nodded. "The remaining Concord leadership has agreed to all terms. Non-aggression, recognition of Earth's sovereignty over the entire solar system, and reparations for Europa." Mason's eyes drifted to the wall where the names of the fallen were engraved. 142 civilians from Europa. 83 military personnel lost in the battle, each name illuminated by the morning light. "Was it worth it?" he asked quietly. "They didn't give us a choice," Wilson replied. In orbit above them, Earth's new defensive perimeter extended all the way to the Kuiper Belt. Automated stations monitored all approaches to the solar system. No ship could enter without detection. At the Mars shipyards, construction continued on vessels incorporating both human innovation and technology learned from study of damaged Concorde ships. Humanity would not be caught unprepared again. President Andrew Clark approached them, his security detail keeping a respectful distance. "The dedication ceremony begins in 30 minutes, he reminded them. Mason nodded. "I'll be ready." Clark looked out at the city below. The Arcturus ambassador requested a private meeting after the ceremony. "Says his people are impressed by our resourcefulness and wants to discuss technology exchange." "They were saying we were primitives just last year," Wilson said with a slight smile. "Nothing changes minds like success," Clark replied. In a secure facility beneath the North Atlantic, Cynthia Lee supervised the deactivation of Project Harbinger. The weapon that had saved humanity would be dismantled, its principles understood but too dangerous to keep assembled. "Are we sure about this?" asked her assistant. "What if the Concorde returns?" Lee secured the final component in its containment field. "We keep the knowledge. We don't need to keep the sword always drawn." She entered her authorization code. "Besides, we're developing better defenses now." Across Earth, cities that had prepared for invasion returned to normal life. Children played in parks that months earlier had been designated evacuation zones. Schools taught new subjects, xenobiology and interstellar relations alongside traditional courses. At the United Nations Plaza, thousands gathered for the memorial dedication. Representatives from every nation stood with families of the fallen. Among them were survivors from Europa Colony, including Lisa Harmon, whose discovery of hexanium's importance had helped humanity understand the conflict. President Clark stepped to the podium. 6 months ago, humanity faced extinction. Today, we stand not just as survivors, but as recognized members of a galactic community. The crowd applauded politely. This memorial honors those who made the ultimate sacrifice, but it also represents a promise that humanity will defend itself, but always seek peaceful coexistence when possible. Mason listened from his seat on the stage. His thoughts turned to the future, a future where Earth's ships would explore beyond their solar system, where human ambassadors would walk on alien worlds. After the ceremony, foreign observers filed reports to their distant governments. Each contained variations of the same message. The species from the third planet of the unremarkable yellow star had revealed themselves to be far more than they appeared. They possessed not just technological innovation, but remarkable adaptability and determination. One report, translated from the complex mathematical language of a crystalline species, concluded simply, "The lesson is clear. Do not provoke the humans. They do not start wars, but they finish them." As night fell over Earth, its people looked up at the stars with new understanding. They were not alone in the universe, and now The universe knew they were here. Admiral Gary Mason paced the length of the conference room. His normally crisp uniform looked wrinkled after 36 hours without sleep. Behind him, a holographic display showed the ruins of the Europa colony. 142 dead. 73 injured. For what? A mineral we considered worthless, he said, his voice heavy with anger and grief. Around the large oval table sat the Earth Defense Council, 12 men and women responsible for humanity's protection. Their faces reflected exhaustion and shock. "What do we know about them?" asked Counselor Rebecca Young. Kevin Richards, Chief Intelligence Officer, stood. "Very little. No previous contact with this species or coalition. We're calling them the Galactic Concord based on intercepted communications. They appear to be an alliance of multiple alien races." He displayed images captured by the escaping shuttles. The alien ships looked organic yet mechanical, with flowing lines and pulsing lights along their hulls. "Their technology is far beyond ours in some areas, particularly propulsion and energy weapons," Richards continued. "However, we believe they underestimate us." Diana Foster, commander of Earth's fleet, leaned forward. "We should strike back immediately. Show them humans aren't easy targets." Zachary Collins, the political advisor, shook his head. "With what? Our most advanced ships would be destroyed before getting within firing range. We need diplomacy first." "Diplomacy?" Foster scoffed. "They ignored all attempts at communication before slaughtering our people." The room erupted in argument. Mason watched silently until the noise became too much. "Enough," he shouted, slamming his hand on the table. "Fighting among ourselves accomplishes nothing." Natalie Simmons, head of Advanced Weapons Research, had remained quiet throughout the debate. Now she spoke softly, but everyone turned to listen. "We have Project Harbinger." The room fell silent. Project Harbinger was humanity's greatest secret, a weapon system developed using principles discovered in the Kuiper Belt 20 years earlier. "Harbinger isn't ready," Mason replied. "The power requirements alone." "We've made breakthroughs," Simmons interrupted. "The miniaturization problems are solved. We can deploy within weeks if necessary." Collins looked horrified. "You're suggesting we use a weapon we barely understand. The Civilian Oversight Committee hasn't even." "The committee didn't watch their colleagues die yesterday," Foster cut in. Mason raised his hand for silence. "Before making any decisions, we need more information. I propose deploying the stealth ships to observe these Concord vessels, learn their capabilities, communications, and intentions." Dr. Jacob Wilson, the Council's scientific advisor, nodded in agreement. "Knowledge before action. We can't afford mistakes." "And if they return while we're gathering intelligence?" Foster asked. "Then we defend ourselves with everything we have," Mason answered firmly. "But we don't start a war we might not be able to finish." The council voted. 10 members supported Mason's plan for intelligence gathering. 2 supported immediate military action. "Prepare the stealth vessels," Mason ordered. "Volunteers only. This is reconnaissance, not engagement." As the meeting concluded, Mason pulled Simmons aside. "How ready is Harbinger actually?" She looked him directly in the eyes. "The weapon works. The delivery system needs refinement. Give my team 3 weeks." "You have 2, Mason replied. "And Natalie, make it portable. If these aliens want war, we'll give them something to remember us by." In orbit above Earth, 3 black ships prepared for departure. Visible only as slight distortions against the star field, they represented humanity's most advanced stealth technology. On the bridge of the U.S. Defiant, Captain Alan Brooks studied his mission parameters: find the aliens, learn everything possible, return with the information that might save humanity. "Setting course for the Jogian sector," announced his navigator. "Engage," Brooks ordered. "Let's find out who we're dealing with." The ships vanished into the darkness of space, carrying humanity's hopes with them. Captain Alan Brooks stood motionless on the bridge of the U.S. Defiant. Through the viewscreen, he watched the alien fleet, 17 vessels of varying sizes, all with the same iridescent hulls that seemed to shift colors as they moved. "Maintain distance," he whispered. "Keep us in the shadow of Ganymede." The stealth ship's systems hummed quietly. Their position, hiding behind Jupiter's largest moon, had kept them undetected for 3 days. The Defiant's hull absorbed radar and light, making them nearly invisible to conventional sensors. "Captain, they're transmitting again," said Maya Johnson, communications specialist. Her fingers danced across her console as she captured the alien signals. "Same frequency as before." Brooks nodded. "Send it to Victor for analysis." The ship's artificial intelligence, nicknamed Victor, had been processing Concorde communications since their arrival. Its neural networks were designed to identify patterns in unknown languages. "Processing complete," Victor announced, its calm voice filling the bridge. "I have decoded approximately 68% of their communication structure." The crew exchanged excited glances. This was the breakthrough they needed. "Display translation," Brooks ordered. Holographic text appeared above the main console. Ryan Phillips, tactical officer, read aloud. "Extraction complete. Primary survey of Sol 3 defenses indicates minimal resistance capability. Harvesting fleet can begin within 2 lunar cycles." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. "Sol 3, whispered Brooks. "That's Earth." Johnson's hands trembled slightly. "They're planning to harvest our planet." "Continue monitoring," Brooks ordered. "I want every transmission captured and analyzed." Hours passed as the crew worked without breaks. Patricia Hughes, the ship's xenobiologist, studied visual data of the aliens themselves, glimpsed through their ship windows. "They appear to be 2 distinct species working together," she reported. "The larger ones seem to be warriors or workers. The smaller ones appear to be directing operations." Phillips suddenly sat upright at his station. "Captain, their shield frequencies are fluctuating on a predictable pattern. Every 43 seconds, there's a millisecond vulnerability at 5.72 gigahertz." Brooks moved to the tactical station. "Can we exploit that?" "Possibly. A precisely timed energy pulse might disrupt their entire shield system." The captain nodded thoughtfully. "Document everything. This could be critical." In her lab, Hughes made another discovery. The alien biology shows unusual sensitivity to gamma radiation in the 3.7 to 4.2 range. Exposure would be severely debilitating to them, but harmless to humans. Brooks collected each piece of intelligence, assembling a picture of their enemy's weaknesses. The Concorde was advanced, but not invulnerable. "Prepare a data package for Earth," he ordered. "Include everything we've learned." As Johnson began the transmission, alarms blared across the bridge. "We've been scanned," Phillips shouted. "Something penetrated our stealth field." Brooks remained calm. "Complete the transmission. Then prepare for emergency jump." The Defiant shuddered as an energy beam struck its port side. Lights flickered across the bridge. "Hull breach on Deck 3, reported the damage control officer. "Sealing emergency bulkheads." "Transmission complete," Johnson confirmed. A second blast rocked the ship more violently. Crew members grabbed for support as systems failed around them. "They've locked onto us," Phillips said grimly. 3 Concorde vessels approaching fast. Brooks knew they couldn't outrun the aliens. "Is the data confirmed received by Earth Command?" Johnson nodded. "Confirmed receipt. Then our mission is complete." Brooks opened the ship-wide communication channel. "All hands, prepare for emergency maneuvers. We're going to show these aliens what humans can do." The Defiant turned, engines flaring to full power. Instead of fleeing, Brooks directed the ship straight toward the approaching Concorde vessels. "What are you doing?" Phillips asked, eyes wide. Brooks' expression was determined. "Making sure our intelligence gets home. And teaching them humans don't die quietly." The Defiant accelerated, its damaged systems screaming in protest as it charged toward the heart of the alien formation. Earth transformed into a war machine almost overnight. Military bases hummed with activity. Factories that once produced civilian goods now manufactured weapons and armor. The planet prepared for battle in ways not seen since the darkest days of its history. General Samuel Warren oversaw operations from the newly established Unified Defense Command Center buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Massive screens displayed global readiness, fleet positions, and the countdown to estimated Concorde arrival. "Status report," Warren demanded, his voice echoing through the cavernous command center. "Orbital defenses at 83% capacity," responded his aide. "Planetary shield generators at full power. Ground forces mobilized worldwide." Warren nodded grimly. The U.S. Defiant's sacrifice had given them precious intelligence and time. Every minute was being used to prepare. In a laboratory 50 levels below, Dr. Tina Rodriguez worked tirelessly on Project Harbinger. The weapons system occupied an entire reinforced chamber, pulsing with strange energies that defied conventional physics. Adjusting frequency to match Concorde shield vulnerabilities, she announced to her team. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she recalibrated delicate instruments. If Phillips' data is correct, this should bypass their protection entirely. The weapons core glowed with an unearthly blue light. It represented humanity's greatest scientific achievement, and possibly their last hope. Test firing in 3, 2, 1. Rodriguez initiated the sequence. A beam of concentrated energy shot forth, striking the reinforced target. Instead of burning through, the energy seemed to fold space itself, creating a microsecond where matter simply ceased to exist. When the effect faded, a perfect sphere of nothingness remained where the target had been. "It works," whispered one of the assistants. Rodriguez nodded. "Now we need to make it portable enough for space deployment." In another facility, engineer Jason Powell supervised the modification of Earth's defense fleet. Workers swarmed over spacecraft, installing new weapons designed to exploit the weaknesses found in Concorde technology. "The pulse generators need to be precisely calibrated," Powell instructed. "1 millisecond off, and we miss our window through their shields." Across the room, pilot Grace Wilson ran her squadron through combat simulations. 20 of Earth's best pilots, chosen for their reaction time and adaptability, practiced maneuvers that would be necessary when facing the alien fleet. Again, Wilson commanded after a failed run. "Your timing must be perfect. We'll only get one chance at this." Meanwhile, at a neutral space station orbiting Mars, Ambassador Eric Chen made humanity's final diplomatic attempt. He stood before representatives from 3 alien species who had agreed to mediate. "The Concorde's unprovoked attack on our mining colony violated all principles of peaceful contact," Chen stated firmly. "Humanity seeks no conflict, but we will defend ourselves." The alien mediators exchanged glances with their multifaceted eyes. One responded in a translated voice. "The Concorde does not recognize your species' claim to this system. They consider your development insufficient." Chen's expression hardened. Then they have gravely misunderstood humanity. Back on Earth, psychologist Benjamin Carter finalized his psychological warfare strategy. Their communications suggest a hierarchical structure with strong dependency on leadership, he explained to military commanders. "If we can eliminate or isolate their command ships, the rest may become disorganized." In cities around the world, Director Allison Park coordinated civilian evacuation plans. Underground shelters that had been theoretical projects now became reality as workers reinforced subterranean spaces. "Prioritize children and essential personnel," Park instructed her global team. "Each shelter must be self-sufficient for at least 6 months." As these preparations continued, Admiral Mason received word that deep space sensors had detected Concorde ships entering the outer solar system. "How long?" he asked. "At current speed, 5 days until they reach Earth orbit," came the response. Mason's face showed no fear as he gave the order. "Initiate Operation Final Warning. It's time to show them what they're really facing." The message was clear. Humanity would not go quietly into extinction. They would fight with everything they had. The Concorde fleet approached Mars orbit when Earth made its move. Every communication device across the solar system simultaneously activated. Television screens, computer monitors, even personal devices displayed the same image. Admiral Gary Mason standing tall in his formal uniform. "Attention, vessels of the Galactic Concorde," Mason began. His voice was calm but carried unmistakable resolve. "I speak for the United Nations and peoples of Earth." The message transmitted in every format humans had developed, along with the mathematical patterns the Concorde themselves used. There would be no misunderstanding due to language. Your unprovoked attack on our Europa colony resulted in the deaths of 142 civilians. You have ignored our attempts at diplomatic resolution. Now you approach our homeworld with hostile intent. On the bridge of the Concorde command ship, alien leaders observed the transmission with compound eyes and translated Mason's words through their systems. "We have studied your capabilities and intentions," Mason continued. "We know you plan to harvest Earth. We know you consider us a lesser species, unworthy of consideration." Mason's image zoomed out to show him standing in a control room filled with military personnel and scientists. "This is humanity's final warning. Withdraw from our solar system immediately. Failure to comply will result in consequences beyond your understanding." The senior Concorde commander made a dismissive gesture to his subordinates. Their intelligence suggested humans possessed no weapons capable of threatening their armada. Mason nodded to someone off-screen. "Perhaps a demonstration is necessary." The transmission switched to a view of Phobos, one of Mars' moons. A small human vessel approached the barren satellite. "This uninhabited moon contains no human outposts or valuable resources," Mason explained. "Watch carefully." From the vessel emerged what appeared to be a simple probe. It touched down on Phobos' surface and activated. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, reality itself seemed to bend. A sphere of distortion expanded outward from the probe's location. Where it passed, matter simply ceased to exist. Within seconds, a perfect hemispherical chunk of Phobos vanished. The moon, now missing nearly 20% of its mass, began to spin erratically in its orbit. The transmission returned to Mason. "This is Project Harbinger, a single prototype. We have now deployed 12 fully operational units throughout our system. We possess the capability to eliminate your entire fleet simultaneously." In the Concorde command ship, alarms sounded as sensors confirmed what they had witnessed was real. Junior officers moved frantically between stations, analyzing the impossible data. "We have no desire for war," Mason continued. "But make no mistake, if forced to defend ourselves, we will do so with absolute commitment. Humanity may be younger than your coalition, but we are not to be underestimated." The Admiral leaned closer to the camera. "You have 24 Earth hours to begin withdrawal from our system. After that time, we will consider your presence an act of war and respond accordingly." The transmission ended, but immediately began broadcasting again in a continuous loop. Earth hadn't just sent this message to the Concorde. Similar transmissions spread outward to every star system within range. Dozens of spacefaring civilizations received the demonstration and warning. Several species who had reluctantly joined the Concorde recalled their ships. Their ambassadors cited reassessment of strategic priorities as they distanced themselves from the coming conflict. On Earth, civilians watched the demonstration with mixed fear and pride. Harbinger represented both humanity's greatest achievement and most terrible weapon. In the Planetary Defense Center, Frank Morrison monitored the energy grid powering Earth's shield network. "Shields at full capacity, Admiral. If they attack, we're as ready as we'll ever be." Mason nodded, watching the tactical display where conquered ships continued their approach despite the warning. "They're still coming," said Commander Foster. "I didn't expect them to retreat immediately," Mason replied. "Pride is universal, it seems." Foster checked her tactical readouts. "All defense systems armed and ready. Earth stands united." Mason squared his shoulders. Then let them come. The Concorde fleet appeared at the edge of Earth's orbital defense perimeter, like a storm rolling in from the sea. 37 vessels of varying sizes, their hulls shimmering with iridescent energy. The smaller ships moved in formation around 3 massive command carriers. "They're within range," announced the tactical officer in Earth Defense Command. Admiral Diana Foster stood calmly, hands clasped behind her back. "All stations report. Orbital platforms armed and tracking. Planetary shields at maximum power. Fighter squadrons launched and in position. Harbinger units primed and awaiting deployment authorization." Foster nodded. "Open communication channel." The main screen flickered to life, showing an alien figure. Its body was insectoid, with a chitinous exoskeleton and multiple limbs. 4 compound eyes reflected the light of distant stars. "This is Admiral Foster of Earth Defense Force. You have ignored our warning. This is your final opportunity to withdraw." The alien's mandibles clicked as it spoke, translation software converting its sounds to human language. "Your demonstration was impressive, human, but we have analyzed your weapon. Its energy requirements make widespread deployment impossible. Your bluff is noted but rejected. Surrender your world, and we will allow some of your kind to survive as servants." Foster's expression remained neutral. "You've made your choice." She cut the transmission and turned to her staff. "Begin Operation Thunderbolt." Across the solar system, humanity's defense plan activated. Captain Daniel Hughes led the first strike group from behind Saturn's rings. His ships had been hiding there for days, engines cold, waiting for this moment. "All vessels, full power. Attack pattern Epsilon," Hughes ordered. 12 warships surged forward, approaching the Concorde fleet from behind while their attention focused on Earth. Simultaneously, Commander Paul Wilson led his fighter squadron from concealed positions on asteroids and orbital platforms. 100 small, agile craft designed for a single purpose: to exploit the millisecond shield vulnerability Phillips had discovered. "Remember your training," Wilson told his pilots. "Timing is everything. Fire only when your targeting computer confirms shield phase shift." The battle erupted with blinding intensity. Energy weapons lanced across space. Explosions bloomed in silence against the backdrop of stars. 3 Concorde vessels fell to Hughes' surprise attack before the aliens could respond. Their formation broke as they turned to face threats from multiple directions. Foster watched from command, her face illuminated by tactical displays. "They're dividing their forces. Execute Phase 2. Cynthia Lee, Chief Harbinger Scientist, received the order in her hardened bunker beneath the Mariana Trench. Harbinger deployment authorized. Target the Concorde flagship. The device, disguised as debris, had been positioned days earlier. Now it activated, drawing power from its microfusion core. On the Concorde flagship, alarms blared as sensors detected an energy spike. The alien commander barked orders, but too late. Space itself seemed to fold inward at a point near the massive vessel. A sphere of distortion expanded, engulfing the command ship and 2 nearby cruisers. When the effect dissipated seconds later, nothing remained but scattered atoms. "Harbinger successful," Lee reported. "Target eliminated." Wilson's fighters struck at that moment of confusion. They darted between larger vessels, firing precisely calibrated pulses that slipped through shield vulnerabilities. "Shield penetration confirmed," Wilson announced as explosions rippled across a Concorde destroyer. Multiple hits successful. The remaining Concorde ships began defensive maneuvers, but their coordinated strategy had collapsed with their flagship. Individual captains made contradictory decisions. Some pressed the attack, while others began retreat. On Earth, Colonel Heather Martinez prepared ground forces as a precaution. "If any get through, we'll be ready." The space battle continued for hours. Human vessels took heavy damage. 2 orbital platforms were destroyed, but the Concorde forces suffered worse. Foster watched as the alien fleet's formation disintegrated completely. "They're breaking. Push the advantage." Hughes' remaining ships pursued retreating Concorde vessels. Wilson's fighters targeted engines and weapon systems. By the time Earth's sun set over North America, the battle had turned decisively. The Concorde fleet, what remained of it, was in full retreat, their forces scattered and communication in disarray. The sunrise over New Geneva looked different somehow. The light seemed more precious, the colors more vivid. Perhaps it was just that Earth had come so close to losing its sunrises forever. Admiral Gary Mason watched from the observation deck of the newly completed Memorial Tower. Below him stretched the diplomatic corridor where representatives from 17 alien civilizations now maintained embassies. 6 months after the battle, humanity's place in the galaxy had transformed completely. "Beautiful morning," said Laura Wilson, stepping up beside him. As Earth's chief diplomat, she had been working tirelessly since the Concorde retreat. "The final treaty is signed?" Mason asked. Wilson nodded. "The remaining Concorde leadership has agreed to all terms. Non-aggression, recognition of Earth's sovereignty over the entire solar system, and reparations for Europa." Mason's eyes drifted to the wall where the names of the fallen were engraved. 142 civilians from Europa. 83 military personnel lost in the battle, each name illuminated by the morning light. "Was it worth it?" he asked quietly. "They didn't give us a choice," Wilson replied. In orbit above them, Earth's new defensive perimeter extended all the way to the Kuiper Belt. Automated stations monitored all approaches to the solar system. No ship could enter without detection. At the Mars shipyards, construction continued on vessels incorporating both human innovation and technology learned from study of damaged Concorde ships. Humanity would not be caught unprepared again. President Andrew Clark approached them, his security detail keeping a respectful distance. "The dedication ceremony begins in 30 minutes, he reminded them. Mason nodded. "I'll be ready." Clark looked out at the city below. The Arcturus ambassador requested a private meeting after the ceremony. "Says his people are impressed by our resourcefulness and wants to discuss technology exchange." "They were saying we were primitives just last year," Wilson said with a slight smile. "Nothing changes minds like success," Clark replied. In a secure facility beneath the North Atlantic, Cynthia Lee supervised the deactivation of Project Harbinger. The weapon that had saved humanity would be dismantled, its principles understood but too dangerous to keep assembled. "Are we sure about this?" asked her assistant. "What if the Concorde returns?" Lee secured the final component in its containment field. "We keep the knowledge. We don't need to keep the sword always drawn." She entered her authorization code. "Besides, we're developing better defenses now." Across Earth, cities that had prepared for invasion returned to normal life. Children played in parks that months earlier had been designated evacuation zones. Schools taught new subjects, xenobiology and interstellar relations alongside traditional courses. At the United Nations Plaza, thousands gathered for the memorial dedication. Representatives from every nation stood with families of the fallen. Among them were survivors from Europa Colony, including Lisa Harmon, whose discovery of hexanium's importance had helped humanity understand the conflict. President Clark stepped to the podium. 6 months ago, humanity faced extinction. Today, we stand not just as survivors, but as recognized members of a galactic community. The crowd applauded politely. This memorial honors those who made the ultimate sacrifice, but it also represents a promise that humanity will defend itself, but always seek peaceful coexistence when possible. Mason listened from his seat on the stage. His thoughts turned to the future, a future where Earth's ships would explore beyond their solar system, where human ambassadors would walk on alien worlds. After the ceremony, foreign observers filed reports to their distant governments. Each contained variations of the same message. The species from the third planet of the unremarkable yellow star had revealed themselves to be far more than they appeared. They possessed not just technological innovation, but remarkable adaptability and determination. One report, translated from the complex mathematical language of a crystalline species, concluded simply, "The lesson is clear. do not provoke the humans. They do not start wars, but they finish them. As night fell over Earth, its people looked up at the stars with new understanding. They were not alone in the universe, and now the universe knew they were here. 20 years after the Concord War, Earth had become unrecognizable. Gleaming spires of advanced alloys reached toward the sky in major cities. Transport tubes connected continents, allowing travel from New York to Beijing in under an hour. Humanity had embraced its place among the stars. Jack Miller stood on the observation deck of the ESV Discovery, Earth's first long-range exploration vessel. As captain, he had been chosen to lead humanity's most ambitious mission yet, a journey to the galactic core, passing through territories of a dozen alien civilizations. Final systems check complete, Captain, reported First Officer Susan Chen. We're cleared for departure. Miller nodded, watching Earth grow smaller in the main viewport. Its blue-white sphere was now protected by a network of defense platforms that glinted like stars in orbit. Beyond them, at the edge of the solar system, the Deep Space Monitoring Array kept constant vigilance. Set course for the Arcturus way station, Miller ordered. Standard cruising speed. The Discovery's engines hummed to life. Unlike the crude fusion drives of 20 years ago, these new propulsion systems incorporated principles learned from studying captured Concorde technology. The massive ship accelerated smoothly, stars blurring slightly as it approached light speed. In his private quarters later that evening, Miller reviewed historical records of the war. His father had been among the pilots who fought in the final battle. Though only a child then, Miller remembered the fear, then the celebration when news of victory spread. A communication alert interrupted his thoughts. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from an unidentified vessel, Chen reported. They're approaching on an intercept course. Miller hurried to the bridge. On the main screen, a ship unlike any in Earth's database approached. Its design seemed fluid, almost organic, with no clear distinction between hull and propulsion. Shields up, Miller ordered reflexively. Hail them. Before they could establish contact, a holographic figure appeared on the bridge. A tall, slender being with iridescent skin and multiple arms. Its features were almost human-like, but with subtle differences that spoke of a different evolutionary path. Greetings, travelers from Earth, the being said in perfect English. I am Ambassador Zorn of the Elysian Collective. Miller stepped forward. I'm Captain Jack Miller of the Earth ship Discovery. We have no record of the Elysian Collective in our database. The hologram nodded. We have observed your species from a distance since your conflict with the Concorde. We rarely interact with younger races, but your journey takes you near our territories. Is this a warning to stay away? Miller asked cautiously. Quite the opposite, Zorn replied. It is an invitation. We wish to establish formal relations with Earth. Your people have shown remarkable growth since emerging onto the galactic stage. News of the encounter was transmitted back to Earth. Within the diplomatic court headquarters, Laura Wilson, now elderly but still sharp-minded, read the report with interest. Another advanced civilization making contact, she told her protege, Mark Daniels. 20 years ago, they wouldn't have given us a second glance. What changed their minds? Daniels asked. Wilson smiled. We showed the galaxy that technological advancement isn't everything. It was our adaptability, our creativity when faced with a superior force that impressed them. Back on the Discovery, Miller accepted the Elysians' invitation to visit their nearest outpost. As diplomatic protocols were exchanged, crew members expressed both excitement and apprehension. Do you think they're trustworthy? Chen asked quietly. Miller considered the question. Earth Defense will analyze every aspect of this encounter. But part of our mission is to forge new connections. The Discovery adjusted course toward Elysian space. As it did, long-range sensors detected other vessels changing course to observe them. Representatives of various species, all curious about the humans who had defied expectations. In 20 years, humanity had gone from fighting for survival to exploring the galaxy with confidence. The message sent during the Concord War still echoed: underestimate humans at your peril. But now, a new message accompanied it. Friendship with humans brings rewards worth seeking. The Discovery continued its journey, carrying humanity's spirit of exploration into the unknown depths of the galaxy.